MooTools provides us with the request class as a wrapper for using the XmlHttpRequest object, also known as the XHR object. Using the request class, writing Ajax becomes much simpler. First, we should instantiate request, and we should pass over an object with properties that describes the Ajax implementation we want to get. The first property, URL, is for specifying the URL address we want the HTTP request to be sent to. The method property is for specifying the method of the request. The default is post. Here in this code sample, we specify that we want a request using the get method. The data property is for specifying the parameters we want to be sent when the HTTP request takes place. In this code sample, we send 3 parameters: name, ID, and average. The timeout property is for specifying a time limit, so that if the response, in this case for example, doesn't arrive within the next 4000 milliseconds, then the function we specify using the onTimeout property will be invoked. So we could, for instance, inform the user about the problem that takes place on the server side and tell him that the response hasn't arrived and maybe you want to give it a try at another point of time. The onRequest property is for specifying the function we want to be invoked when the request is sent. The onFailure property is for specifying the method that we want to be invoked when an error happens. In such scenario, the reference for the XHR object will be passed over to this function we specify. The OnSuccess property is for specifying the function we want to be invoked when the the data we expect to get back from the server arrives. And that data is passed over to the function we specify, so we can, for instance, just print it to the screen or do something else with it, such as updating part of the screen with the new data. Once we instantiate request, we just need to invoke the send method on the object we got. That's all. Now let's give it a try. This is the URL address, and as you can see, if I press enter, I get back exactly what we expect, which is the reply from this PHP script.